Hey everyone, is my voice is audible to you all? Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. So sorry for the delay. So some technical issue happened. Okay. Sorry for that delay. Okay. So last class, we just start our section now. Okay. Soon. Okay. So sorry for the delay. Just happened an technical issue in StreamYard, so that is the delay. Okay, so in last class we have discussed about destructures, right? So how to destructure a thing and all. So today we're going to complete the destructuring and all, and we're going to see about prototype and inheritance. It is very easy topic. Okay, thank you, Rajan. Thank you, Rajan. Okay, so it is a easy topic. That is what we're going to do. So for that, I just going to use JS bins. Okay, so if any newbies are there for our section, just give a comment for me to get. Okay, okay, so bear with me at the end. Okay, so at the end I just going to give you a last day attendance form that is very important for getting your certificate to attend this workshops. And today we're just going to cover the destructuring. Okay, so last class we have discussed about the destructuring and all, right? So what are the things we have covered? So what is first of all mean destructuring? So destructuring is nothing but in an array we have so much of elements, right? List of elements out there, and every time we need to like go and individually if I want to take that element individually and store it in a variable in a olden ways, it bits harder, right? So that is we have discussed. For example, I have something like const and I have like something num as an array, and I have value like 1 2 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6 56, something like this. Okay, so this is an array of list. If now I want to destructure it, destructuring means nothing but I want to store each and every value in a separate variable. That is what destructuring. If I want to do that, so the process is heavy, and also it has more syntax to use. Okay, for example, I every time I want to declare a variable like something like this, and I want to say that variable contains the syntax of 1 0 like this. So now what happened? So in a number with a 0th index, what the value is there, that value is stored inside the num1. So if I call the console.log, and here I just simply say num1, then what will happen? It will display me the answer of the value of num1. It is 1. So if I want to destructure all the array elements, what would happen? So every time I want to do the same thing. Okay, so every time I want to do the same thing like this, I just want to rename this, and I want to rename this, and I want to rename the syntax index of the variable to get a different value. Okay, and also for calling also you want to change. Okay, so this is the process of destructuring. So consider it to now I have very small array, that is what I created. But if you want to destructure in a big real world arrays, how this codes to be. Okay, so consider this code has huge syntax, right? So every time I want to call the same repeated thing. Okay, so in coding we have a principle called dry principle, that is called as don't repeat it again. So if you're repeating the same code again and again, it is not a good practice. Okay, so there comes in another way. First of all, we run this. Here you can see 1 2, again 2 is there. This is because of this. Okay, so if I run this, now you can see 1 2 3 is written. Okay, so this is how we destructure. Okay, so this is not a great way to do. So now here comes a modern way to destructure. So how can we destructure? Means we can destructure by calling an variable. Okay, instead of calling an calling something like this, something variable name individually, we can call the variable name in an array. For example, num1 num2 num3 like this. Okay, and you can just mention, you just give an equal to sign and just mention which from which array you want to destructure. So here I just say from num1 I want to destructure. Okay, so now the same syntax. For example, I call the console log. If I call and paste it here, and here you can see if I call this, you can see the value 1 is displayed here. If I run this here, you can see the value 1 is displayed. If I call the num2, if I call the num2, it gives the value of second one. Okay, so it is an easy way and modern way of destructuring in this. So this is what we have discussed yesterday, right? Sir, I missed the last 2 days. Do I get the certificate? No problem. Just give a attendance for today, and I highly recommend if you are the previous, go for the previous videos, and if any live chat is there, go through your live chats and try to get attendance. If that is not in that, okay, so you want to attend most of them. Okay, so most of the workshop, that then only you can get the certificate. I think you will get. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so this is how the modern way of destructuring. Okay, so now this is what we have discussed earlier. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're just going to do, okay, so here, and another thing is important. So whenever you use the destructuring method here, that there is an another thing is important, that is the order of the syntax. For example, here, if you, whatever the variable name you give in the zeroth index, the value of the zeroth index will be taken. Okay, so if you are giving something, if the order is changed, it means everything will be collapsed. Okay, so order of the syntax is very important. For example, okay, for example, in an array, I want the first one, I want the third one, I don't want the second one. Okay, so then how can I declare, how can I destructure? So how can you destructure means, if you don't want something, just leave a space like this. Okay, leave an empty space like this. So now what happened, num1 is take the value of index 0, and here it is empty, right? So this indicates leave this, leave the upcoming next value, and num3 takes the this index 2 value. Okay, so if you want to leave any value, just use this. Okay, use this empty comma. Okay, so that is how it works. For example, now I use this. If I call num3, you can see the value 3 is going to display. Here you can see the value of 3 has been displayed. Okay, so if you want to leave something, what you can do, you just leave a comma and give an empty and give another comma, and you can go for another. For example, I just say num4. So here a num4, what is the value num4 have? So here for first one I have 1 and I leave that, right? So then mean this value going to be leave, and for third one here we have num3 is there, and fourth one I leave that, right? So I leave that, so this value is not yet. And for fifth one I named it as num4. So what happened, if I call num4 means it just use the value of 56. Yeah, 56. Here you can see the value of 56 has been produced. Okay, so this is how you want to leave something. Okay, so leave something in an array. So this is what you want to do for leaving. Okay, so the next thing is this destructuring methods. You can use it in like something like functions too. Okay, so it is very useful when you use this in a functions. Okay, so how can I do that? For example, okay, so what I'm going to do, I just going to create a function, something like function. Okay, and I just say call, and here I just say a comma b. There are two parameters are going to pass here, and here I just going to declare const something like add is equal to a plus b. Okay, so and I just declare another variable subtraction is equal to a minus b, something like this. Okay, so the next arithmetic operation, what do you feel you can give? Okay, no problem with that. So I am giving two things. Okay, so now what we can say, so I say that in a function, what this return keyword indicates, the return keyword indicates that it is the end of the function, and it also do another work, that who calls this function, it returns that. Okay, who calls the function, it returns that. Okay, instead of returning an value, what we can do, we can return an variable by using this destructuring. Okay, what we can do, I simply say add comma sub. Okay, so if someone calls it, what it will return, it will return this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I just going to say const, and here what I'm going to do, I just going to say add const, I just going to say add comma sub, and here I just give call the function and I give a value of 1,3, something like this. Okay, 1,3 or anything, any value. I just give like 5,3. Okay, so what happens, this call function is get initiated and this return value is sends the answer means this, what is the value is going to get, it sends the answer to this this variable and this variable. So when I call this variable, you can see the answer. For example, I'm going to say console dot log, what is the value for add, if I add this two number, what is the value? Okay, so we should get 8, right? 8. So the same thing, what if I get, if I subtract the value, I just given multiple argument for my console and you can get 8, and if I subtract this, the value is 2. So how it works, for example, I created a function and that inside the function I created two variables, and that variables contains two operation, one is arithmetic, one is one is addition, one is subtraction, and if you want to give more you can able to give. And I say return, in the return keyword, return both the value. Okay, so both the variable. Okay, so both the variable, I say instead of returning only, return only add, instead of returning only subtraction, instead of returning only addition, what I say, return whatever you want. Okay, so I say I want addition and also subtraction, so I return both of the thing. Okay, if you only want addition, what you can say, you can simply say add only. So now if I call that, you can see undefined will be produced. Why the undefined will be produced? Because here I don't say to return the subtraction variable. Okay, so the return only the whatever it is inside that return statement, or whatever in the line of return statement, that only return to the person who calls the function. So here who calls the function, here this is calling the function, right? So here they are calling the function. So here addition is calling the function and subtraction is calling the function. For subtraction we don't have any returned value, so what happened, it will produce as an undefined. Okay, undefined method. So you want to mention here whatever you want to produce. Okay, so you do that, you can able to produce that. And this is comes handy when you, this destructuring comes handy when you use this with the functions. Okay, so this is normal one. Let's see how this destructuring work in object. We know how to work with the array, and we see about how to work with the functions and all, and we're going to see about how to work with this object. Okay, so link to register, i think you are asking for that offline workshop, right? Right, just a minute. Okay, so I will just give you a link to register for the offline boot camp. I said that only 20 people are limited seats, so we only going to train only 20 people for the next 2 months. Okay, already I think 4 to 5 members has been filled and all. Okay, so right now only the link has been opened, so from tomorrow onwards we're going to be promoted in our digital space. Okay, so I think hope who all are come first who get the seat very soon. Okay, so I just send you the link to register for the offline online boot camps for one-to-one boot camps and all. Okay, so just a minute. This is the link for the payment, and you will get whatever you want. And if you want documents, I just send you, just wait for sir another 15 minutes. I will send all the documents and what is the curriculum and all I would send. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I just going to say about creating a variable. So creating an object, so I just going to say what we can say, something like or we can say trans. Okay, so I just going to create an object. So I use the curly phrases, and inside this I just going to create like something like brand. And here what is the brand we can give, we can give the brand name of Audi. Okay, so Audi, okay, anything. And here I just give the model. The model name is going to be 2022. And next color is going to be red. Okay, red. And year is going to be like same 2020. I just simply like this. Okay, so I do that. So if I want to destructure it, how can I destructure it? If I want to, for example, if I want to use it in a function, how can how can I destructure it means, I just want to call the function, and here I just give any name like my car, something like my car, and inside this parameter you need to pass this, argument. So here I just going to say I just going to say something like a. Okay, so here what I going to do, I just going to say const uh, about const about is equal to, okay, I create a variable about, and here I going to destructure it. How can we destructure it? So now it is passed into, we consider this object is passed into a parameter. So how can we destructure? We can destructure by a dot brand, something like this, plus what are the color of the car, a dot color, something like this. Okay, so this is how we destructure. Okay, this is how we destructure. And for completing this code, I want to call function, my function, first of all my car, and I want to pass this object inside it. Okay, so like this I want to pass it. Okay, so then only it will be work. Okay, then only it's going to be work. So now what I'm going to do, just a minute, I just going to say, if someone calls this function console.log about, okay, so it's going to display the answer in the about. If I run this, here you can see od and red is there, right? So I don't add any special characters and all, that is why they are. So this is the old way of doing this. Otherwise you can use the template literals also, it will be fine. So the name and od is declared, right? So this is something old way of doing, old way of destructuring an object. So every time we want to call the properties and also the object that is going to have, that is going to do. Okay, so this is how we work. But if you work with some destructuring, so new way how to work with the destructuring new way means the same thing. How can we do this means, you can simply call the function. Okay, you can simply call the function. Okay, so and what you can do, you can use the name, I just say my car, and here inside this for object you can simply use this curly phrase. Okay, so if you're a bit familiar with React, we use this destructuring method everywhere in the React. Okay, so this is something like modern way of doing that. So if I do this, you can easily get access for all the properties where you're going to mention here. So what I'm going to do, I just going to mention like what all are the things I want. I want the brand, right? I want the brand, so I just going to mention inside it. Okay, so remember I mentioned it in a curly phrase. Remember that I mentioned it in a curly phrase. And I want to add the color of the car. I just going to call the color of the car like this. Okay, so you can just call, you can destructure here itself. And what you can do, you can call directly. Okay, so like const about is equal to, and here what you can do, just simply call directly instead of calling something like a dot brand, a dot color. Instead of that, what you can do, you can call directly, because it is destructured. Okay, it is destructured, so it will be give access now. Okay, so brand is there, and what I want something, give a space, and I want the color of the car. Okay, color of the car. And the same thing, if you want to call that, you want to use this, and I save this, just run this. Wait a minute, just refresh the code. Okay, here I want to say console.log about. Okay, something like this. I just run this. Here you can see it is destructured and it will be work here. And what if you have an nested object? For example, if you have an object and inside this there is like info, there is another property is there, and inside this you have some new another object is there. Okay, what if you have some nested object? So info, like I'm saying that experience is equal to 10. So this is called as nested object. So what is mean by nested object? Nested object is nothing but, and inside an object there is another object is there. So here you can see this is an object, and inside that object there is an additional information for another object is there. For example, we mostly see that in address, if you want to address that they will give a nested object like that. So how can I access this experience? Okay, so if I simply say like comma and I say expire like this, and I use that, means you can see if I use this directly like expire, you can see an error is there. Okay, it's a unexpected identifier is there. So why? Because it is in nested, so it is not directly in the object, it is in the nested object. So for that, what I want to do, I want to use the nested case. So how can you use that? So you can use that by using you need to call this, first of all, and inside this you can call simply like this. Okay, so now what you have an access, so there is a brand is there and there is an info color is there, and now you have an access for expire to. If I run this code, okay, I think something what I missed it, right? Okay, I missed out to one bracket, and I want to call this in a separate syntax. Okay, so I want to call this in a separate syntax like this. Okay, so this bracket, and I want to call this in a separate syntax. Okay, so that is the mistake. Okay, here itself there is an error. I just missed out the comma here. Here you can see already red color is there. So how can you access a nested object? You can access a nested object by just calling that property. You just calling that property and you just return that property, and you need to just show it right here. Okay, so this is how you want to call the nested object. Okay, so what if there is an array is there, instead of an object there is an array like this. Array is there. Okay, something like information. Here I am saying I am senior dev, like this, something information is there. So now it is not in an object, it is in an array. So how can I fetch this array? So if I run the same code, you can see undefined is there because it is not fetched, right? So how can I fetch that? So instead of mustache bracket, you can use the curly bracket. Okay, you can use this square bracket. So why? Because square bracket is used to fetch the um, array. Okay, so you can use the fetch that array, you can use that. Okay, so if you want to destructure some array, you can use this square bracket. If you want to destructure some object, you can use the curly braces. Okay, so this is all about destructuring. Okay, so we have ended up with the destructuring. We have discussed all about destructuring. Okay, so this is all about destructuring. So this will help to easily destructure. It will just slice all your arrays and it will be given into the separate variables. Okay, it will do it in a way. Okay, so next we're going to see about spread operator. So what is meant by spread operator? So spread operator is used to quickly copy paste your arrays or an object. Okay, how can I do that? For example, I have an array const num1. Okay, 1 comma 2 comma 3. This is not an array, so I just say array with a square bracket. Okay, so this is an array. Okay, so now I just want const num2. Okay, so I have like something like 5 comma 6 comma 7, something like this. Okay, so now what I want to copy the num1 and I want to copy the num2 and I want to concatenate. I want to join these two values into a single array. Okay, so how can I do that? So by using nested spread operator, we can easily allows us to quickly copy and paste all the array items inside it. How can I do that? For example, I just going to say const num3. So in this variable only, I'm going to copy and paste all the array items. How can I do that? So I'm going to declare an array. I just simply say that. And for copying all your array item, you just want to use this 3 dot operators. Okay, so 3 dots. Okay, so after that you want to mention the variable name. Okay, so you want to enter the variable name like this, and again just give a comma and give another 3 dot and just given another variable name. Okay, like this, like this. Okay, if I say console dot log num3, okay, if I say console.log num3 and I just run this code, you can see all the values has been written in a single array. How it has been written? Because this three dot operators, what it is called as, it is called as spread operators. Okay, so by using the spread operator, what you can do, you can able to easily copy this, and I just paste it. Okay, so paste it and it give a comma, and it just copy this value and it going to paste it here. Okay, so this is what spread operators do. Okay, let's see how can we use the spread operator with the destructuring. Okay, how can I do that? For example, now we know what is destructuring, we know how the spread operator works too. So now I just going to use this destructuring, I going to use the destructuring with this spread operator. How can I work that? For example, I just copy this array, and I'm going to call const num1 equal to, and I just going to paste it. Okay, so here you can see there is an variable is there, and I have an array is there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to destructure it. So what is meant by destructuring? Destructuring means I want to pick all the values outside this array. How can I do that? Okay, so for destructuring, what we do, I just say const, we use like 1 comma 2 like this. Okay, so now what is meant by spread operator? Spread operator copy all the array items, that is what it do, right? So now what I did, I just called 1. So now what happened, it is a variable and it takes the value in the 0th index, and I called another variable 2 and it takes the value in the 0th index. Okay, so and I want to post all the rest of the value in a separate array. So how can I do that? You want to copy, just give a 3 dot here, what it going to do, it just going to leave this. Okay, because it is not leaving that, because this variable, it's already taken that value. Okay, so now what all are the things remaining is there, it just copy that and it going to paste in the variable 2, something like this. And I want to mention the array like this. If I say console.log 1 comma, okay, so here what I'm going to do, instead of this, to 2. Okay, so what we have done now, the variable, in this one variable we have the value 1, and this 2 variable we have the value 2, and in this 2 variable we have all the entire thing as an array itself. Okay, if I run this code, you can see here, you can see 1 is, if I call the console 1, it is here displayed, and if I call the console 2, the value of console 2 is displayed, and all the array items. So I use that spread operator, right? I use the rest or spread operator to destructuring, and I just paste it in the 2. Okay, so it will copy another all the listed array and it will create a new array. Okay, and it will be pasted it here. So, okay, so this is how this will work. Okay, so the next thing what I'm going to do, how to work with the spread operator by using the object. Okay, so I just going to create an object like something like const obj object is equal to, I just going to create an object something like model, and here I just say like this, and here I just say model, and color I just going to say red. Okay, so there is an object is there. Okay, so there is an object, this is considered, this is an object, and I'm going to have another object same look like this, but instead of having an additional information, I just going to say object1 obj1. And here what I'm going to do, I just going to, instead of model, what I'm going to do, instead of model, I just going to say year, and I just going to add 2022. Okay, so and I just comment this color. Okay, so till now I just going to comment this color. Now what I going to do, I going to add this object and this object in a single object. How can I do that? How can we do that? We say simply like const obj2, I create an object, and here what you can do, you can create the mustache tag, and here you can use the spread operator to copy that. Okay, copy that obj comma, and here you can use the obj1. Okay, so if I call console.log obj2, okay, if I clear run this, here you can see an object is created, and now you can see there is an color is there, and there is a model is there, and it also showing that it is inside there is an object is there, and that is also created. And for clear view, I just go and show it in my console. Here you can see an object is created. Okay, date my vehicle, wait a minute. Okay, so what just happened, this is copied, but this is not copied. I just added itself, that is why the error has happened. I just want to put this, not an error, it will happen, it just add this. Okay, if I put this, you can see that in a single variable. Okay, now it's work fine. Now you can see color is added, model is added, and also this year is also added. Okay, so now I just going to share another thing. Okay, here you can see you have an same property color. Here I don't have the same property color, but if I add the color here means, then what will happen? So I'm copying two objects, I'm just merge it to two and single object. That is what I'm doing. So the same property, if the same property exists in both the object, what would happen? So what would happen mean, if I run this, here you can see the color, instead of red, I just going to say blue. Okay, if I run this, here you can see the color red is changed into blue. Okay, what happens means, the object which you copy first, here you can see which you copy first, it has the same property that is coming next to the next coming object, means it will overwrite it. Okay, for example, now in the first object I have color red, the same with the same property I have another thing. Okay, and another property is created, and that has a different value blue. So instead of creating two properties, what it will do, it will check both the key, so color and color, it will matching. So then what it will do, it replace the old value with the new value. Okay, so that is how it works. Okay, so this is all about using spread operator. By using spread operator, copy pasting arrays and objects and all. Okay, so this is all about like something like this class link. You are asking for the YouTube link. I don't get your words like salami. Okay, so I think you are asking for the YouTube link, right? So for YouTube link, you can get in the YouTube itself. Okay, so you just get that. Okay, so this is for live class only. This is live in YouTube only. Okay, so this is how the spread operator works. Next is modules. So what is mean by modules means, so modules, for that modules you need to understand the, like it is very simple. You need to use the type module method, and you want to use the for example, you want to send and you want to send and for example, you are creating an multiple css, right? Multiple css, multiple html, everything, right? So you want to send and separate, you want to use multiple js files. Okay, you want to send the data from one place to another, that is called as modules. Okay, so you can import a data from one place to another, that is called as actually modules. Okay, so that is very simple. For that we need html, and I want to work with that too. Okay, instead of that, I just going to tell you another important property, that is called as prototypes and inheritance. So actually, what is prototype and what is inheritance? If anybody knows, you can tell it in my comment. Okay, so what is the prototypes and inheritance means? So all the objects in JavaScript, everything has a prototype. So what is meant by a prototype? For example, every time I just click and inspect and I just go for my console, you can see a prototype has been created. Okay, if I just look into the object here, you can see a prototype has been created. So what is actually mean by this? So what is the meaning of this means? So these all are the some of the default method we are using in the JavaScript, right? So actually that is the programming language. Okay, so we are studying about length property is there, uppercase method is there, so many things is there, right? So that everything is created by that everything inbuilt method is created in JavaScript. That inbuilt methods created, that is called as prototypes. Okay, so you can see prototype in the last class also we have discussed about classes, right? Classes and inheritance we have discussed, and in that classes and inheritance you can notice that I go whenever I create a blueprint by blueprint method. Okay, so in a classes I created a method that produces that is not shown in the object. For example, if I just create a class something like this, and I just going to say car, and I just say constructor. Okay, so this is the best way to explain that. Okay, explain something like name, ID, like this. Okay, and I just say this dot name is equal to name, this dot ID is equal to ID. Okay, this dot name is equal to name, and this dot id is equal to id. Like this it works. Okay, so this is called as creating a property, right? This is called as creating a property. And if I want to create a method, okay, if I want to create a method, for example, I just say creating a method like something like present. I'm just creating a method, and here I just going to say console.log this dot name plus this dot id, something like this. Okay, so if I call, so what it's going to do, it's going to create an object for me. If I call like my const my car, okay, and I just going to call the variable new and with a class, and this is a blueprint, and this is all our properties, and this is going to be a method. Okay, so if I call this, I want to call the name like Hari, and instead id, consider the id as an age. Okay, so I just simply like put something like this. Okay, something like this. Okay, if I say console.log my car. Okay, if I clear run this, unexpected token error, where happened, where happened, it is present this dot id. Okay, it creates an object. I just go and click and inspect, and I go for my console, and here you can see an core object has been created, right? So I just display it in my half browser. Okay, a core object has been created. I click this. Inside this you can see a prototype has been created, and inside the prototype you can see the present has been created, right? So inside the prototype now the present has been created. Notice that it is not created as a method. Okay, in normal terms I created an object, it will not it will created in the public only, it will not created in the prototype. Okay, so what is meant by prototype means it is the blueprint. Okay, we can use that prototype wherever you inherited an object, wherever you are inheriting an object you can use that. Okay, so that is the use case of this. Okay, so I think why this property is not showing this dot name, id, something like this. Okay, so no problem. So this is what you want to understand. Okay, so this is what you want to understand, the prototype. So this prototype would be helpful when you want to add something in the classes, or when you want to add something in the constructor function. For example, okay, now you can see I just created a blueprint for my object, and in that you can see that car, inside the car there is a function is created, right? So that function is inside the prototype only. So this constructor method, it is already built in the JavaScript, right? So what is the purpose of this? This will take care of the all the values we are giving. Okay, for it will take care of the all the properties. Okay, so this will take care of the all the properties, I think so. Okay, something like this. Okay, so this will take care of all the properties, and this present is also a prototype that is created by myself. Okay, so that is also called as a prototype. Okay, so now I just explain this. Okay, so what, here you can see a classes, right? So what is this classes is a blueprint for creating an object, right? So before classes arrive, there is another thing, another blueprint method is available, that is called as constructor method. So we can simply use the function to create a blueprint for our object. So this is a function, and if you want to create a blueprint for object by using the function, that is called as constructor method. Okay, so I'm using the function and I'm just creating like something like first comma second, something like this, and inside this you can use the same thing, like this dot first is equal to first, this dot second is equal to second. So actually the class we have discussed about the class, right? So the class is nothing but class is nothing but an upgradation of the construction method. Okay, so by using function we create a blueprint, that is considered as a constructor method. By using classes we created that is called as class method. Okay, so this is called as constructor method. So this is by using this also we can able to create an object. So how can we create an object? For example, if I say const my employee, so I just say my emp, and here you want to call the new. Okay, so the same thing, person, and here I just going to say like something like this, and I just say something like this. Okay, if I say console.log, what we can say, we can call the object like this. Okay, if I run this, here you can see an object is created. Okay, so this is also a method to create an object. Okay, so now you can see, in normally if I don't use the construction, method, and I normally create an object like const my emp, okay, what can I do? Something like just copy and paste it. Paste it like this, and I remove the unwanted things, like I just don't want this, and I don't. So this is manually I'm creating, instead of using any blueprints, I'm just manually creating. So that is what it takes some like this, and here what I can say, and another name like this. Okay, so and you want to remove this equal to sign, and you want to call this, okay, like this. Okay, so this is how you want to create a manual object. Okay, so if I call this, now you can see the same thing will be run. Okay, the same thing will be created. This is manual creating, and that is blueprint creating. And we know that what is the advantages of creating a blueprint, what is the disadvantages in creating manually. So if I want to add some property, some new property, how can I do that? I can simply say, I can simply call my emp Okay, so I just simply, what we can say, I just say my emp dot, for example, what you want to add, I want to add the experience, I just say exp or experience, and I just give the value, and I just say value is 3 years. Okay, something like this. So I have a 3 years of experience. So now what happened means, inside the object myXP, this experience property will be added. Okay, you can see this experience property is added, right? So this is in object, it will be easy, but I do the same thing in my constructor function. Okay, so this is manually. If I use the same thing in my constructor function, like if I say my xp dot something like equal to 3, like this, here you can see it shows some error. Okay, I just write off, it shows some error, and you can say that you can add it for like functions, right? So I just call the constructor, blueprint constructor person, and I simply say dot, and I just call that whatever I want the expr, and I just give that, and I just give something like 3, like this means something like 3, something like something like this means it will not take, you can see it will not take that value, it will not take that value. So then what happened, you can see it will not taking that value. So this is the problem with that. So this is the problem with it. We cannot add something, a property or a method to a constructor, like an directly to one blueprint like constructor method classes. We will not able to do that. So for that, what we want to use, the prototype property to add that. So how can I do that? Okay, so how can I do that means, we have a prototype property. For example, how can I do that means, if I say dot prototype dot something. Okay, if I add that and I run this code, and here you can see expr is added. Okay, so this is how it works. So now before adding the prototype, okay, if I run this, you can see it doesn't added, right? So if I go and click the inspect and I check in my console, here you can see the person object is there, right? So inside that prototype you can check expr is added, but it will not displayed here. Okay, so this is old one. So I just going to clear this. Okay, and I just say run, and now I just go and inspect console and add last one. Okay, last one, here you can see inside the prototype only the constructed method is available. So that is the default method created in JavaScript. Okay, so that is only method is available. Okay, so whatever I added a new variable, that is not added. So if I use the prototype property, now what will happen? So now this experience exp or this property is added to the blueprint itself. Okay, if I go and click inspect now, okay, so till it's not executed, I just click the run. Okay, it shows some error, prototype prototype. Okay, yeah, so I just run this error and it will be added, and you can see where it is added. So you can see an object is created with the experience, but where it is added, that is very important. Where it is added, it is added not in the object, it is added it in the prototype itself, which means, what is meant by prototype? Inside the uh, JavaScript itself. Here you can see first name Hari and second name Prasad is only there, but here you can have an option to look into it. So for this object, we have a prototype, and that prototype, inside the prototype, we have a property that is called as what? expr, and it is added inside the prototype. And for whenever you are using that person, you can able to access to that property. Okay, so this is how the prototype is added. The same, like if you want to add any method to it, any method to this function, what you can do, you can use the same thing. For example, I just say name, and if you want to add a function, declare the function inside this. Okay, so declare the function inside this, and just say here return, and here I just say this dot first plus this dot second. this dot first plus this dot second. If I run this code, and here you can see a function has been also added. A function has been also added, and it is in the it is called as a method. If I go and click the inspect and go for the console, now I check the person, and you can see that is also added in my prototype itself. If I go for the prototype, a name prototype has been added. Like how JavaScript, we have access to the constructor. So how the JavaScript constructor is inbuiltly in JavaScript, right? So that is what that is called as prototype. But the name I created it. Here you can see I created argument null called this prototype is I created. So inside the prototype, if I go that, you can see all the method applicable for that function is available. Okay, so prototype is nothing but it is JavaScript. Okay, so every object in JavaScript that has a prototype. So based on that prototype it will be created. For example, you have an access to two uppercase method, two lowercase method, all are considered as a prototypes. Okay, so they are inbuiltly built. Okay, so that is called as prototypes and all. And by using the prototypes, we can also build the blueprint. So what is actually a blueprint? A blueprint is nothing but an easy way of creating an object, right? Easy way of creating an object. And there is two things is there. One is by using function, one is by using classes. By using function, we created a blueprint for an object that is called as a constructor method. And by using classes we created, that is called as class based object we creating that. Okay, so here you can see we created using constructor method. So we want to add something inside that blueprint, you need to use this prototype property. Okay, so this is called as prototype. Prototype, how the prototype works. So what is meant by prototype? Inheritance. So based on this prototype, we are inherited it to then another constructor method or another constructor something, that is called as prototype inheritance. Okay, so now you just understand how this prototypes works. Okay, so that is very easy. And one more thing here you need to notice, that is, if you work with prototypes, only change the prototypes that you made. Okay, don't change the prototype of JavaScript. Okay, so here you can see what all are the prototype made by JavaScript. So inside the function we have an access to another prototype method, that is called another method that is called as constructor, right? So that constructor is also created by a prototype, and don't change that. Okay, so don't add some extra functionality or add some extra specification to that. Okay, so that will cause us some error, that will cause us a huge bug. Okay, so then your total JavaScript will be get into risk. Okay, so because that is actually JavaScript, that is how it works. Okay, so only modify your own prototype, which means only modify your own created object, only modify your own created method in JavaScript. You just do that. Okay, so never modify the prototype standard of JavaScript itself. Never modify any standard methods like constructor methods there, and so other methods like length method, properties methods like to uppercase, lowercase, and push pop. Everything is a method and everything has a prototype, and don't mess with that. Okay, so that is the only thing for today. Okay, so we have covered about what is prototype and all, and you have a you have a something, you have some doubts like what is the difference between function, and what is the difference between class based, and what is the difference between function based blueprint. So there is not a lot of difference. A class based function has an additional, it is an upgradation of the function based creating a constructed method. A class is nothing but an upgradation of that. Okay, so you can use the class method whenever you want. Okay, so there is no problem in that. Okay, so basically we use the constructor method also to create an object, but it is pretty old way. Now mostly we use the class method to create an object. Okay, so this is how all it works. Okay, so the last thing is about hoisting. So what is meant by hoisting? And hoisting is nothing but, for example, just going to say just a minute. Yeah, I just going to remove all the code. Okay, so whenever we declare a variable, what we will do, we just call this let and or whatever the keyword you are calling, and you just want to call that like something like this, right? So this is how you work, right? So this is a normal standard how the JavaScript work. So the hoisting in JavaScript is a default behavior of moving declaration to the top. What is mean by moving declaration to the top? For example, if I say function Okay, it takes some more time. I just simply explain. Okay, instead of declaring it in the same line itself. Okay, so same line itself, if I say something like console.log x, something like this, if I add this in a function, what will happen? This is considered as a global scope, right? So if I call this, means you can see the answer will be displayed. And instead of doing that, what you can do, you can first assign a value to a variable, and later on you can declare the variable, like let x, something like this. Okay, so this is also work. If I run this, not like this. Okay, it is used in the strict method. I think JS bin will not work with that. Yeah, it will be access. So what is meant by hoisting? Hoisting is nothing but you declare a variable and you assign a value to this, but you use you use that declaration in the bottom at which means you after assigning that value, then you declare a variable. It will also work. So that is also called as an hoisting. Okay, so hoisting is a too smartness for JavaScript. Okay, so it is very too smart for JavaScript. So we developers try to avoid that. Okay, so try to avoid that. Why? Because whenever you want to declare, whenever you just declare a variable declared with a keyword. Okay, so that is fine enough. Okay, don't use this over too smart, and this will leads to some errors and all. Okay, if you want to avoid this over smartness of JavaScript, you can use the useStreet method. By using the useStreet method, these some of the over smartness for JavaScript will not be work. Like you can you cannot access you cannot declare a variable without the keyword. That is not allowed. Okay, it has some strict syntax. Okay, so you want to use all the strict syntax for JavaScript. Okay, so that is how this use strict method works. Okay, so that's all we have done with this. Okay, so most of the advanced topic we have been covered. I think all the things. Only we the only topic we left is this keyword. How the this keyword works. It has a vast theory part. Okay, so you need to understand the vast theory part. Okay, so that we see later maybe. Okay, so now I just give the attendance form. Just fill up the attendance form for the day 5. Okay, so this is the attendance form. Fill this out. Okay, and I just okay, if you have any doubts towards this, you can ask now. Okay, so and I also want to give the promotions too. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so as we have earlier discussed, we have our boot camps too, like personal boot camp sections also available. Okay, so I just give the link. I just also shared the link in the comment box too. Okay, so you can check that too. Okay, so like okay, so and if you want like the theory, and if you want the notes for our sections, and if you want something like a, a daily post that will increase your knowledge towards JavaScript, follow us follow us me in LinkedIn. Okay, okay, so I'm going to post about like I'm going to start a series, and in that series first I just going to give a notes about how the array helper methods work, and all those things I'm going to explain. And next I just going to work with the this keyword, and I'm going to cover all the entire that series is going to cover all the topics about JavaScript, how the JavaScript work, how the JavaScript engines work, and basically everything, all the advanced concept that is I'm going to cover it in my LinkedIn. And if you have any doubts towards this online bootcamps, it is a limited seats. Okay, so that is going to be filled very soon. Okay, so if you have any doubt also, you can ask me in my LinkedIn. I shared my LinkedIn profile in my chat also. Okay, you can contact that, and if you fill that form, it's fine enough. If you have any doubts towards this today's topic, you can ask me in the comment box. Okay, so I wait for another 1 to 2 seconds to end up the live. Okay, so if you have anything or if you want to share anything, just share. Okay, so the same, like the resources all you going to get it in linkedin post. Okay, very soon I'm going to start a series, and in this series you just get all your resources and all. And this bootcamp, it will be all the details has been previously informed. And also if you have any doubt, you can contact me personally through linkedin. Okay, and attendance form, once you fill out this attendance form, you may get your certificate and all for this advanced javascript course workshop in you can expect that in sunday or monday. Okay, between these 2 days you can get your certificates and all. Okay, so if you missed any live classes, go through the live classes. If you have any doubts towards the live classes, and just ask me in my linkedin page, I will help you there. Okay, I think no doubts for today. Okay, so tomorrow, and another one more thing is that tomorrow we're going to have and 3 hours of boot camp, where if you don't know about what is html and css and javascript, is very going to be very little. And if you want to understand if you want to kickstart, now you are a very fresher and you want to kickstart towards the development, like understand what is html and understand what is the css, then attend this 3 hours boot camps. Okay, so that is going to be start at I think 3 p.m. Okay, so tomorrow. Okay, attend that. Okay, so see you guys. See you in the next section. And the next JavaScript is going to happen. Next JavaScript, this series, this 5 days of series is going to happen. The upcoming week, there is a gap is there. There is no any JavaScript course is going to be there. And at the end of the week, from 25th to 30, you're going to have a JavaScript series of creating project series. It is only based on the projects, how to create a project using JavaScript. And we're going to create 5 mini project by using only JavaScript. Okay, so each day one project we are going to create that and attend that sessions too. Okay, that is going to happen in 25th to 30. Okay, so you can expect. Okay, so see you guys. See you in the next upcoming sections. Okay.